Hello, my name's Vicky Washay, and this is a part of a video series for A Wealthy Life. And this set of recordings is being done in South Africa, which, if you're watching on video, every so often you will see the mountains just appear in the background as the light here is changing. So, why the trip to South Africa? Why record a series of podcasts from here? Well, first off, it could have been not anywhere, but it could have been Indonesia or it could have been Cuba, somewhere I could recenter myself and remind myself how much I have to be grateful for, from healthcare to dustbin men. Different countries evoke different thoughts. And for example, here in South Africa, grateful for power, for electricity, for light, the ability to cook and to heat yourself. My lordy, no wonder they make fires here, because when it's load shedding, which is the government switching off the electricity in various different districts because they can't generate enough or something. And at this time of the year, which is their spring, and I can't imagine what it was like in the winter, it is so cold, so cold. And I think the reason for wanting to recenter, in fact, I know the reason for wanting to recenter is that my life is so full of money, property deals. Now, I see money as a tool. So that's the first thing. I see money as a tool. But there are a lot of people that see the money as an end to itself. I see it as a tool to help me achieve the goals that I want. And that is to free up my time so that I can come out here and spend a month in South Africa if I want to. And so it's that different spin to disconnect from the money, money, money. And I have a problem in that, and if you've listened to me enough, you may well know this already about me, is that I am a competitive perfectionist. And that's a extremely hard personality trait. I think I've been able to redefine what perfectionism is for myself, in that it is the achievement of my own goals, and I'm very clear what they are. So that makes life a lot easier. But the competitiveness is quite hard to squash. And that means I have a tendency to comparisons. How am I doing compared to others? Now, while logically I know that what they're doing, what they're achieving might not make me happy, I still have to work on that comparison, not then triggering the competitive streak, which then leads me down a route to misery. And I've told this story before, how at the end of one financial year, I was having a conversation with my FO, and we were talking through the results of the year, and I'd done particularly well, and then set about setting the goals for the coming year and quarter. And I realized that I'd only worked about 7 months of the year and I'd done well. So I thought, well, what if I worked harder? I could do even better. And so I set about the goal to reduce expenses by about half, and that would basically triple my profit. I could work a bit more, and because the expenses were reduced, then the overall profit would increase. And that sounded like a great idea, and off I poodled. But one quarter in, when we had a review, was I happy? No. Had I needed to increase my profit? No. Was I happy with the existing profit? Yes. And so here we are, 3 months in. I wasn't performing in a way that I was enjoying. I was maybe doing more work, but it wasn't making me more happy. I was exhausted, I was stressed, I was miserable, but I'd allowed that competitive streak when we saw the numbers to show me that I could have done better than I was doing. And so that's what I have to personally be very careful of. Fine, okay, so that's me, that's my issues. But it comes from comparison, from thinking that I could do more like other people are doing. I have friends in property, and some of them don't work very hard at all, and they're quite happy with what they've got, and they poodle around and they have their lives and their interests much like I do. And then I also have friends in property that are basically working a full Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, maybe longer, because they're still striving for something. Now, I'm not saying what they're striving for is right or wrong, or that I am right and they are wrong, but they have different goals. And so when you compare yourself to somebody and you're not clear what their goals are, therefore their actions don't necessarily illuminate why they're doing what they're doing, then it becomes very difficult not to then wander down that road of going, well, they're doing that, I should do that. But they're doing what they're doing for their reasons, and you need to do what you need to do for your reasons. And I suppose in a way you need to get clear on that. And that's part of the reason for taking this break, and for taking any breaks that I take. I'm looking to remind myself that my joy comes from seeing what others achieve. So whether it's my clients building their portfolios and creating their wealthy lives themselves, whether it's the success of my children, my partner, my family, whether it's looking at other investors out there and seeing what they're doing, it's not financially. There are many that do it simply for the money. But for me, I think if there's any jealousy or envy there, it comes from seeing other people's creativity. I love seeing old transformed to new. I love seeing a square into a rectangle. I love seeing the unloved become loved and the uninhabitable into a new family home. And that's very much what I focus on. I've watched people creating large cash flowing HMOs with, 7, 8, 9 bedrooms. And I understand how much work that needs. And I know why I didn't choose that path. We have some HMOs, but they are managed by an experienced team, because I didn't want to be in a position where my time was going to be, if you like, 100% a letting agent or even 100% an estate agent. My time is more valuable to me than that. My time is about memories, about the people that I'm with, that type of stuff. So I'm driven by creating a family home. It's what enabled me to create a safe space and raise my children when I was first on my own. It's the foundation, if you like, to everything that I do. So again, why South Africa? So the purpose here is to remember what's important to me. I love nature. While we have scuba dived here, it wouldn't be one of my top places to scuba dive because it's pretty cold, the water here. And yes, you can get to dive with the great whites, but we've dived with that many sharks. I can find warm water to dive with sharks. There are the vineyards, and you can see one behind me. There's the mountains, there's the outdoor. The philosophy of the people here is to grab every moment, to squeeze every piece of outdoor enjoyment and joy out of life. We said something at lunch the other day. She said, "Oh, would you like the wine menu?" I said, "Oh, it's a bit early to drink," and then went, "Oh, we're in South Africa. It's never too early to drink." So, to appreciate the food. And I have to say, the food here tastes better, and it's not because it's being cooked by someone else. The steaks are just melt in the mouth. The wine is delicious. It all just tastes so nice here. So that's remembering what's important. And then I think the reason why I named countries like South Africa, Cuba, Indonesia, is because when you go to those countries and they don't have a benefit system, they don't necessarily have a health system like we do. Nobody has the National Health Service. You can go back to going, well, hold on a second. I live in a country where those things are given. In fact, we complain when we don't have them, but how grateful are we that we do have them? And reminding yourself that something that we take for granted is not something that is taken for granted in other countries. And I mentioned earlier the power. I mean, we switch on the light, we want to cook a meal, we want to heat our homes. And yes, there are people struggling with the cost of doing that, but you could do it if you wanted to. Here, you don't have the choice. Here, the power goes off between 6 and 8 of an evening. So if you don't eat before 6, you can't eat till after 8. And if the sun goes down at 6:30, you're then spending an hour and a half in the dark. Or the power goes off at 10 till 12:30 at night. So that's it. Well, you have to go to bed at 10 o'clock. Unless, of course, you've got a generator. And I'm not going to get into the whole really weird conversation about why is the government allowing everybody to have generators for the sake of buying a generator, but isn't encouraging them to use solar panel in a country that has beautiful blue skies and everybody could be generating their own electricity and coming off the grid. That will save that one. This is about remembering, being grateful, reconnecting to my values, what's important to me. And it's not our British or American celebrity, money, 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 selfie, SME, social media world. It's nature, it's memories. That's what's important to me. So memories, family, helping others. And that sounds a bit trite to say that, but it has always been a strong value of mine because so many people helped me when I was first out on my own, that initially it was through guilt I felt the need to help others, but now it's actually because I get that much pleasure. It's almost like a vicarious enjoyment to see other people doing well, or seeing other people being successful, or achieving their goals, or helping people understand money or what wealth means to them, or even how to start their property portfolios. Of course, it's an opportunity to re-energize, to refocus, to breathe, but also to question things. What have I been doing? Am I on the right path? Am I achieving the goal that I want to achieve? And so what I'd like to do is pull this back to you now and say, without necessarily having to leave the country, what do you remember is important to you? In a sense, what are your values? Are you connected to those values, or do you need to reconnect to those values? So that's really a thought process. And if there's somewhere you can go, maybe out in the wild, maybe, to the Lake District, or to the local woods, or if you're down by the coast, maybe down to the coast, you want to be somewhere where people aren't. So go there early or go there late when everybody else has left. And can you be there in that quiet of nature and remind yourself what's important to me, to you, what's important to you, and remember it, and then check whether you are still connected to those values. And if you are, great. And if you're not, how can you get back to reconnecting to those values? Because when we're not living in alignment with our values, it creates a tension in us, it creates a stress. And the number of times I have had calls with, for example, fathers, and they've got, on the one hand, this drive to provide for their families, and on the other hand, the fact that they're missing the very families that they're trying to provide for by working all the time. I've got mothers who are trying to support their families. When they're in relationships, they're supporting their partners as well, but they don't either have the confidence or the knowledge or the information to help them feel financially secure. So they're doing everything to provide security for others, but at the same time feeling insecure themselves. So making sure that your values align. And if you want, on the website, there is a book, a workbook about your values. I'll put the link in the notes for this, but if you go along to the website, vickywushay.com, to the resources page, there is a series of workbooks that you can download, and you'll be able to download one and work through that exercise. So if you can't bring this to mind, there's actually an exercise you can do. And then the second thing is gratitude. And if you've been listening to the podcast, you'll know that that's a very strong value of mine, and something that I encourage everybody I work with to do. What are you grateful for? What have you been taking for granted? Who maybe have you been taking for granted? Are you taking for granted that your wages are coming in? Are you taking your health for granted? Are you taking your family or friends for granted? So really sort of thinking through, who or what are you taking for granted? And therefore, maybe remind yourself of what you should be grateful for, or could be grateful for. One of the podcasts that I did much earlier on, and again, we'll put the link in the website, is about being grateful and about how having your phone set at 3:33 in the afternoon with the question, I use the question, how have I been successful today? Because that reminds me to ask the question, am I doing what I set out to achieve, which is to be grateful and to be on my path, to be following my passion and my mission? You could actually start off with setting the alarm, and you change the title of the alarm to say, what am I grateful for today? And do that as an exercise. Also, you can do this exercise when you go to bed at night. So just as you lie down, you turn the lights out, you finish reading your book, you put away technology and everything else, you've turned the light out. And as you close your eyes, what you say to yourself is, what 3 things am I grateful for? And you answer that question in your head, and you fall asleep in that space of gratitude. As you wake up in the morning, well, you have to turn the alarm off maybe, but before you get your feet out of bed, lie there for just a second and just say to yourself, what am I grateful for today? And so one is recapping on the day past, and one is thinking ahead and being grateful for what is to come in that day. And it could be that you're grateful for the challenges that you're going to face. It could be that you're grateful for the people that you're going to meet, or certain things that you're going to do, or simply the food that you're going to eat, and the fact that you too have got electricity if you're living in the UK. So aligning your values and working from that point of gratitude is so important to just remove unnecessary stress. Because when you're in that place, then the other stresses are the external factors that you can then go, okay, this thing is causing me stress. Do I want it? Do I need it? Can I get rid of it? And you can actually take action about that. Gratitude and your values are internal. If internally you're stressed because you're not aligned, that makes everything else so much harder. So what do you remember? What are your values? Are you connected to them? If you're not, check out the workbook. And then we could then move on to, what is your purpose? How can you focus, and what do you need to focus on? But we'll come to that later. So I'm using this series of podcasts and videos in South Africa. Some of them have come from experiences, or will come from experiences that we're having in the day, and it'll trigger something in me, and then I will share that with you to see if it resonates or triggers with you. Other ones are going to be a little bit more designed, in that I will be very specifically talking about a topic. But the whole purpose here is about reconnecting with what's important to you. That's the series here that we're talking about. What's important to you, and how that is going to shape your goals and your year ahead and your version of success, and reduce your stress levels and make your joy and your happiness that much more heightened, so that you are then in a place where you're living a wealthy life. And that is all that I wish for you. So my name is Vicky O'Shea. I hope that this podcast, the first in a series, has given you a sense of what's coming. If you're watching on YouTube, then make sure that you follow along so that you get them all. If you're listening on the podcast, I'm only going to release 4 through the podcast, but there will be more in the YouTube series. So make sure that you connect via YouTube as well, because then you'll be able to hear all of the podcast series, if you like, that I have recorded while I'm out here, not just the 4 that we're releasing through A Wealthy Life podcast on Apple and Spotify. So I hope that I have given you already some food for thought. There are links in the show notes here to the podcast on gratitude, to the values manual, and I posed you some questions at the end of this podcast. I hope that all of that has started to put some whoosh behind your intentions, behind your objectives for the coming year, so that you are going to be in the best place possible to make this your most successful 12 months, and that you will ultimately feel that you are living a wealthy life. Very best wishes, and I will be speaking to you again soon.